Games take a long time to improve, and it could sometimes be months or even years. For Honor is one of those games that as of recently, in its 9th year, the game has done a lot of improvements versus what I had to deal with in the past around its 4th and 5th year, I believe, when I was playing the game. Despite For Honor having its flaws mentioned by the community, I personally been having a lot of fun returning into For Honor and playing with my friends or myself. It's a game that has a rough learning curve and a very high skill ceiling compared to other games, but once you get into the groove of things, it can feel really good winning fights or pulling off some really funny clips. The real question is the game worth returning or even getting into as a new player? I would say yes if you enjoy fighting games and if you're willing to learn. I will dive a little bit deeper on the willing to learn part, as I think for new or casual players returning to the game, this can be something valuable to listen, as this has helped me a lot when I was returning into the game. Then I'll talk about what has synced me back into For Honor after so many years after its release. The main thing with For Honor is learning how to lose. With each loss, it will improve your skill as a player, but you need to start somewhere. And you will get your ass kicked, and well, that's okay. The way to overcome this is take each lesson as what you can do better instead of whatever the person is playing at the moment or how bad you are or any other excuse or something to cope about when you've taken a loss. Sometimes reaching out to a player that you just dueled or friends that you've played with can be a great way to start improving. Most important of all is having the right mindset. There is no way that you can get better if you're unable to accept mistakes. It's perfectly fine to vent for whatever you're frustrated with, but keep in the back of your head that this is a type of game where you can overcome challenges and that your practice in game becomes more effective when you know how to control your tilt. This is obviously not going to be something you're going to be able to do perfectly. I personally struggle with it a lot, but it's still a good advice to give, as this will make you enjoy video games overall. My recommendation is learning how to take reasonable breaks. Long enough to untilt, but not too long where you start getting rusty. A couple of hours or days, or if the tilt is really that bad, maybe a week off, can be extremely helpful in resetting your mental. You can also look up the things that are making you lose and extremely frustrated and how to beat them, or ask a friend to do some duels with you and figure it out yourself. The more you know on why you're losing, the better it will be at correcting your mistakes, rather than making bad habits that later on will be very difficult to break. Knowledge is power, so use it well.
Knowledge.
Another solid advice, if you're truly struggling after many hours of game time, is to pick simpler characters that will let you get a feeling of the basics, and then try going back to your main once you get the basics down. I did this where I played Conqueror for quite some time because I was really struggling to play Aphira effectively, and I just couldn't figure her out. So Conqueror was a really good way to get my bearings in, and then once I did that, I switched to Aphira, and this has sped up my skill extremely quickly, more than I anticipated. Now to move on to what got me back into For Honor. Updates are still being pushed out even after 9 years. You still get some frequent updates, skins, and all types of content that any kind of player can enjoy. And despite the high skill floor in order to play, this game still has simple enough characters to get you into the game, and a lot of the resources are all figured out for you to look up on YouTube, and also the game does explain some of these mechanics fairly decent, at least in the menus when you're looking up the character's moveset. But I do wish that the tutorial was just a bit better for some of the newer mechanics, as I think it's very outdated and not very good for new players, in my opinion. Also, the core gameplay is still enjoyable, and at the end of the day, it's just dudes in armor beating the hell out of each other. You know, what's not to love, right? And a lot of the characters, as far as like being extremely oppressive compared to other heroes, the line of where something is overpowered or S tier is a lot more blurry. It feels like there's a little bit more emphasis on skill expression rather than just picking the right character. Obviously, this is inevitable where like if two equally skilled players fight each other, the character difference will come into play, but I like how that line has been blurred for the most part, and at least in the current level for most casual players, which is majority of the player base in any video game, just getting better is oftentimes the solution to overcome something that's slightly underpowered. Plus, you still have to have a reasonable amount of understanding of the game for most of these meta or counter picks to work viably, versus some games out there it's really easy to just pick the correct character and maybe just like, you know, learn the basics and immediately start hard countering certain characters. But in ForHonor, you actually still have to put the same amount of effort, if not more in some cases, depending on who you select. So you can't just get away with counter picking every single time. You have to actually be good at the game. And because, like I said before earlier, that the game still has updates being pushed out even after 9 years, that there's always hope for character improvements, reworks, and general balance. A big example would be that this current update that came out is Conquer getting finally a roll catcher. Although weird, it does other things besides roll catching, but still really fucking cool that Conquer, after 9 years, finally got a roll catcher. In conclusion, I can't say the game is in a perfect state as my limited hours of playing. However, I do feel comfortable enough to say that for the most part the game's in a positive direction, and as long as it keeps going this way, I believe it can retain a lot of the current players and possibly get more people into the game. I truly adore these medieval PvP themed games, so I really hope that games like ForHonor and anything like that in the future just keep striving, because I truly enjoy these games. Anyways, if you liked the video, hit the like button, and if you have some opinions, whether you agree or disagree, share them in the comments below, as that helps the algorithm. And if you somehow got to the end of this video, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and genuinely have a wonderful day. Have a good one. Peace. Bye bye.